Hello, everyone, and welcome to Your Cup of Joy. I'm your host, Ariana Joy Christie, and I am so glad that you are here. This is a space to inspire, to learn, to grow, and to challenge. Get ready to fill your cup and spread a little joy along the way. Okay, Dr. Margo Lowy, maternal mental health expert, psychotherapist, and author of Maternal Ambivalence, The Loving Moments and Bitter Truths of Motherhood. Welcome to Your Cup of Joy.
Thank you, Ariana. I'm so looking forward to this podcast.
Thank you for joining me. I'm really excited you're here because I was taking a look at the literature that you've written, the topics that kind of came in about this maternal ambivalence, and it all resonated so greatly with me and so much with the topics that I kind of discuss on this podcast. So I'm very excited. I think it's very fitting. And for me, in the stage of life that I'm in right now, it is also extremely fitting. So thank you again. And I want to start by talking a little bit about maternal ambivalence, what that is and why you chose to research it and then to write a whole book about it.
Okay. Maternal ambivalence is, for us as mothers, our capacity to engage in all our maternal feelings, our light feelings, our love, our joy, our compassion, our forgiveness, all of those feelings, plus the darker, more difficult feelings like resentment and fear and anger, and really to engage with all of them, because we are quite inclined to disregard the difficult feelings. And I believe, or I know, that these difficult feelings are actually really important and really valuable for us. I mean, mothering is not meant to be an easy, smooth experience. And it's really messy and interrupted and loving. And I really stress the and, because we really need to engage with all of them. And with the dark feelings, there's potential there always for something transformative to happen in that darkness. I can give you an example. I call it a melting moment of mothering. And I'll give you an example. There's a mum at the mall with her 3 children, and she gets to the mall. It's really busy. And she says to them, okay, stand here. I've got to sort out where we're going. So she's working out exactly what store to go into. And she turns around and one of the children is missing. And I mean, all of us as mothers have had different experience on the same theme.
Yeah.
So she's terrified. She's like struck and she can't move. She doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know whether to scream out, to cry. She's just panicked. And at the same time, she's feeling that little so-and-so, how could he run off? And she's also feeling, what happens if someone's taken him? Mm-hmm. And in that moment, she can see her life before her, like moving to a different direction. If something happens to this child, her life is, in a sense, changed so much. Just in a sense, it's over for her.
Yeah.
So she's in this state. She pulls her other 2 close to her, and then suddenly she looks up. A minute seems like an hour. It's like 5 minutes, so it's like 5 hours. And she sees her son happily coming over to her with his best friend. Okay? And she grabs the child like she's overwhelmed with love. And equally, she's got those feelings of anger and frustration and fear and all those things. And just she's resentful and she's furious. But all of those feelings are part of her love. And this is what she calls the melting moment, what I call the melting moment, that feeling of holding that child and you just melt. And these are what mothering is made up of. Mm-hmm. It's made up of those melting moments, of course, and all the other joyous parts and all the other difficult parts. And my work is really about this notion of maternal ambivalence, of being able to hold all the difficult feelings and all the other joyful feelings, and realizing that, and normalizing the difficult feelings. And because there's also in society we can talk about them, but we haven't processed them. So I've found a way of processing and trying to understand them. And where I got, you also asked me how I got to this. Okay, well, I think that how I got to this is I did my PhD on maternal ambivalence, and because I wanted to find something different about mothering, because the mothering area is saturated, but I just wanted to find something different. And I found a book by Dr. Rosika Parker, and she talked about the loving and actually the hating moments. And then I wrote another book from my PhD. It was an academic book. And then after I finished that, this is the more academic book, The Maternal Experience, Encounters with Ambivalence and Love. And after I wrote that book, it was academic, and I really wanted to write a book that like every mother could, a more conversational book that every mother could pick up. And that's why I wrote this book. And part of that was after I became a mother the first time, over 45 years ago, it was actually nearly 45 years ago, I kind of felt that I had ideas about mothering, and they were kind of elevated. It was like, this is going to be wonderful. It's going to be fantastic. I'm going to have a union with this child. And it actually wasn't like that. But no one had told me that. No one had described mothering how it really is. And so I really wanted to write this book to change the conversation and to normalize the difficult parts of mothering, and to really help mothers to normalize and to understand what it really is like. And what really helped me was my understanding and like a few little sayings that I got from my first book, which is like, mothering is messy and interrupted and loving, and that mothering is also a process of making mistakes and repairing them, and making them and repairing them. And this is really how we learn.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it's also about, as mothers, we all do the best that we can. We muddle through, and that's what it is. So it's kind of taken the whole ideal down of what mothering really is, and making it more human.
I love that. And I think it's so important for people to really understand, because like you said, I think there are so many outside pressures or ideas, or like I always say, I knew my whole life I wanted to be a mom. I felt like I was born to be a mom.
Yes.
And then I became a mom, and it was not what I anticipated or expected it to be. And that became this really difficult thing for me to work through. And the entire time that I was working through it, I was thinking, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I should be happy. I have healthy children. This is what I'm told I'm supposed to feel.
Yes.
And so it almost didn't allow me any space to hold for any feeling with negative connotations.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Because it's also that we think of mothering in a split way. We're split. You're either a caring, loving mother, or you're a witch, or you don't care, or you're a compassionate mother, or you don't care. And I'm changing that. I'm saying we're caring mothers, and sometimes we don't care, and we're compassionate, and sometimes we're not compassionate. I just want to make it more human, because none of us can reach the ideal. We're human.
Yeah, of course.
And actually the ideal of what mothering is a robot. It's rigid. It doesn't give the space for us to really think and really engage with all the feelings of what mothering is.
Totally.
And
I have a friend who says often, two things can be true.
That's exactly right.
That always hits me when I'm feeling like a contradictory feeling.
That's right.
And it really is so true. And I believe we live in a society that pressures us to have children. And then once we have children, wants us to look and feel and act as if we don't have children.
That's so good. Yes.
Yeah. And it's always seemed like not to be say a bad word, but it's like a mind fuck. Like, I'm like, what am I
Yes,
supposed to
yes,
do? I'm
yes,
supposed
yes.
to be a mom. I'm supposed to be fully engaged with them. I'm
Right.
supposed to make an income. I'm
Yes,
supposed to take care of
yes,
myself. I have to
yes.
look a certain way. Like, how is
Yeah,
this all
that's right.
possible?
That's right. And the thing about that also is the social media, like that makes it even more difficult, especially for young mums, because young mums, there's no time and
Yeah.
to do like, so there's such a pressure. And then what is fed by the social media is like, you're either up there doing everything, exactly what you said, looking a certain part, being a wonderful, the perfect mother, which doesn't exist,
Mhm.
being working, doing all that stuff. And if you're not that, you're like, no, there's
The worst.
nothing. You're the worst, and you're not doing it properly.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is, it's both. And look, social media is wonderful. Technology is wonderful. If it wasn't for technology, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We wouldn't be able to spread what we want to spread. But,
Mhm.
I think mothers, we need to have our antennas really finely tuned. And we really need to realize, especially hands on mothering, which is like, we always mothering, but hands on is when you've got young children up to the time that like they go to college or whatever. And
Mhm.
at that time, the challenges are immense for mothers, and for mothers to be real. And I think also what we're talking about now is how do we be real? This is and how do we normalize it?
Yeah.
And I think it's part of it is naming our ambivalences,
Mhm.
because also ambivalence is a misunderstood term. A lot of people confuse it with indifference,
Mhm.
and most people don't really understand what ambivalence is. Well, I happen to think it's a wonderful transformative term, and it needs to be part of the maternal conversation. But a lot of people confuse it with indifference. I think they're both long words and the same number of letters, but indifference is a cutting off. It's totally something different. Whereas ambivalence is connecting with all our feelings.
Mhm.
And indifference is dangerous. I mean, sometimes we want to cut off. It's just too much. It's like when our children are at us and when they're triggering us and when we're under time pressure, and it's difficult. But what I'm begging mums to do is not to cut off, to
Mhm.
stay in the space and to realize that we're not machines, and that we do slip up, and we are meant to slip up. Mothering is designed for that. Mothering is designed for us to make mistakes and fix them up. And as I said before, how else do we learn?
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is that as mothers, we're not really good at patting ourselves on the back,
At all.
and no, and saying, I did a good job there. I slipped up last week. Today I did really well. Tomorrow I might slip up, and that's okay. It's like, it's what I'm talking about is something real, not something that's like a fantasy.
Mm.
So I'm trying to make mothering with ambivalence accessible to everyone.
And okay, like, I kind of look at it in simple terms as like, your feelings are valid, and like, it's
Yes,
okay to have feelings that are not just happy,
yes,
because that's unrealistic. And when you
no,
have that unrealistic expectation, which I did for myself for so long, anything outside of that feels shameful, or you feel like
yes,
you're wrong, or you're not
yes,
supposed to feel that way. And then it's like internalizing, like, what is wrong with me? I
no,
wanted this for
yes.
so long. Why am I not fully enjoying it 24/7?
Okay. And I think that was the second time you talked about that. So when I really talk about that, there is a lot of shame and guilt
Mhm.
in mothering, no
Totally.
question. But we need to talk about it in a way that's okay. And you use the words okay. And I
Mhm.
think that when we go into mothering, we don't think that we're going to have these feelings. So they're kind of very foreign, because we do think we're going to go into it. It's going to be always joyful. It's always going to be wonderful. It's going to be fantastic. And it is. And the issue is it's not like that all the time.
Yeah.
And we need to, so I'm trying to carve out a space for,
Mhm.
for that and the other time. and the times that we're really struggling, and the times that we're just not managing that well. And and when we have these feelings, what do we do with them? And
Totally.
how do we manage them? And I often say to try and respond to them rather than react.
Mm.
And in a sense, to give ourselves like a minute to ourselves to think and to tell ourselves these feelings are okay. Because there's also something, particularly in new mothering, we're always under time pressure. Like
Always.
to get the breakfast, to get them to school, or to get them to sleep, or to get them to wake up, and when they're older, to get them to after school activities, to do
Mhm.
everything for them, because that's what we believe that good mothering is.
Totally.
So there's a total time pressure. And we feel it. Sometimes we feel it brewing up inside of us. We don't have time for all this. So we might snap. And then we feel bad about it. We feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying, I mean, we all know this, but what I'm saying is let's give ourselves a bit of grace.
Mhm.
Let's give ourselves a few minutes or a minute what we need to be kind to ourselves, and that will help us. Like,
Yeah.
the time pressure is huge.
It's
So
huge.
if we kind of interrupt that ourselves and give ourselves a minute, then that can also help us to respond rather than react. Because
Mhm.
I think we're really programmed to answer the demands at the minute, at the moment, and we put that on ourselves too, because we think as a mother, that's our job to
Yeah.
answer their demands straight away. No, that's how we've been programmed, but we need to think about that and to think about how much more valuable it is to slow down.
Mhm.
Like our kids might think that they need to be answered, and then maybe they go into a tantrum, but we need to give ourselves that space.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think we talked a little bit about shame and guilt, but your book explores these darker, messier sides of motherhood, things like resentment, things like guilt, things like even hatred or anger.
Yes,
I myself have experienced all of those things and a
yes,
lot of rage on top of that. About like a year and a half postpartum, I would say, of my third child, my second birth, I had severe rage. Like I was like, what is wrong with me? Like I could not even control myself. And I never talked about it, even to friends or family, because I felt so much shame. I was
yes,
ashamed
yes,
of myself. I was ashamed of like my lack of control over
yes.
myself. And what I realized after opening up a little bit more about it was that I'm not the only person experiencing this.
That's
And there's
exactly
some
right.
type of healing in knowing that and knowing that it's okay. So, my question for you is what would you say to the mom who feels ashamed of these emotions that they're having?
Okay, well, I think what I would say, that it's really important to surround yourself with the right people,
Mm,
and people that have your back, that you can talk to, because if you can open up, you can realize that it's normal, and it's a normal feeling, and it's a normal part of mothering. I mean, what job is more difficult than being on call 24/7 for many, many years, and all the roles that involves, like whether it's teaching, changing, um, healing them. I mean, all the things that mothers, particularly hands-on mothering, have to do. But I think that being in a space of someone where you feel safe, where
mhm,
you can open up, whether it's a friend, whether it's a relative, whether it's a partner, whether it's a therapist, just someone that you know is there to support you rather than um, pull you down. Because if it's not the right person, you can really go into a spiral. So I
mhm.
think what we're talking about is being able to share those feelings, because everyone has them, even people, actually more people that don't admit it. But you need to be able to be vulnerable and open. And I think as mothers, we have this antenna we kind of know who are the right people, and we kind of know who are the wrong people. But sometimes we end up getting with the people that aren't the right people. So we need to listen to those signals of ourselves and be attuned to who are the right people. And the other part, shame is a very difficult emotion. And I'll just talk a little bit about an example that I talked about in my book. I made a distinction between guilt and shame. Guilt is, we all feel guilt as mothers, and as mothers we all do things that we don't like and we're guilty for, and even if we let them go, we get triggered over the years. We don't forget them. That's one emotion, and it's the emotion that we would have liked to change it, but we can't. But we don't live our lives in guilt. We might have it for a minute or an hour, and then we're almost able to address it and let it go, knowing it will probably come back, but we can function in an okay way in our lives. Shame is something different. And I use the example in my book of a mother who is really ashamed of herself all the time. If her child's diaper is clean, she's a good mother. If her little girl has a nappy rash, she's a bad mother. If the child sleeps, she's a good mother. If the child doesn't sleep, she's a bad mother. It's all these ors. Like, she's got herself in this or situation, and there's nothing that will take her out of it. And she starts to feel like very, very exhausted and very, she just can't, she knows she can't manage this anymore. So she reads around the topic, and what she realizes is it's actually the way she has been mothered, in a binary split way. And her mother and her are very involved in her everyday mothering. She's got her own little girl. So one day she goes to the park she's read this article and she's kind of starting to understand it. And I love the park. She goes to the park with her daughter and her mother. And she's swinging her daughter on the swing, and the mother's there, her mother, and she's saying, "Don't swing her so high, she'll fall off." She catastrophizes the whole thing. So she turns around to her mother and she says, "Mum, I love you. You've been a great mother to me, but now it's my turn to mother my daughter in the way that I want to. It's my turn. It's your responsibility. You're not responsible for my daughter. It's your time to have fun with her, to enjoy her. I will make mistakes, but that's part of my mothering, and I needed to say that to you." And she was also saying it to herself. And that provided a shift for her. So instead of feeling that she was stuck in judging herself all the time, and she just felt not in her whole being was colored by feeling, I don't like the word bad, but that's really what it was. Like, it was dragging her down. She was feeling bad about herself. And she was able to move herself to realizing that mothering is about making mistakes and repairing herself, and that she really got it, and she was able to lift herself out of her shame. I'm not saying that this is okay. That was the example that I used in order for people to understand it. It's not that straightforward, but what it does mean is it's a recognition that these feelings were pulling her down, and that she had to introduce the "and" to her, like how she was mothering, and pull the bar down to really not be so rigid, to flow with her mothering.
Yeah. And I think that gives a good distinction of understanding, and also like the fact that sometimes those feelings are normal and momentary, but sometimes they're amplified and kind of last longer. And I think motherhood and even parenting in general is stressful. There are stressful times and stressful pieces. Even in the examples you're giving, there's stress in many of them. And that can be like a quote normal thing to feel or be stressed out about. Can we talk about maybe the difference between normal momentary frustration and then more serious maternal mental health challenges? And how can a mother really tell the difference?
Okay, that's the first time I've been asked that particular question.
Oh,
So, no, really, really fascinating. I think that actually I don't have an actual answer to that, but what I do think is I think that if we're talking about normal, everyday mothering, it's realizing that our feelings are okay and that we're that it's okay to be out of control, to recognize it and to try and mend it. I think if it's a serious mental health issue, it would be like happening very often, and the mother would be feeling unsupported. And also, I mean, you might be talking about postpartum depression, and that is something that is it's a chemical issue. And if a mother really feels that she's really not coping a lot and often, then she actually needs to go and seek help.
mm-hmm.
And I think your question is so wonderful because what you're trying to distinguish, do I need help or is it actually absolutely normal? And I think how I would distinguish it is if the mother is functioning on an everyday okay basis, and if she feels she's okay, then that's okay. And I can't really answer it because every situation
It's
is
different
different
for
is
sure.
different. But I think also mums, I talked about antennas before, and
Mm-hmm.
I think most mothers have antennas, and if they really feel that they're not coping, they actually need to go and get help because they're responsible for children.
Totally.
That's
Yeah.
that's really
And something I've learned in my motherhood journey too is that taking care of yourself is taking care of your kids because
no,
you need to feel good in order to provide them the care that you want to be able to provide them.
yes,
And so I think too, for people who are struggling and wondering, like, oh, is this normal or not? Sometimes you can be very high functioning and still not be okay. And so you're
yes,
like, when I was really struggling a lot, I think when it came to the kids, everything was fine because I just felt like that was what I was diving into. That's what I was doing. As soon as I went to bed, then I was not okay because then my job was done. Like I showed up for them how I wanted to, and then I couldn't do anything else. And so I think just being able to reflect and similar to what you were saying and having like a support system and having people to talk to, I think can really help to rationalize like, is this something I can handle on my own or is this something that I need support in?
yes. Look, I think that's really important. To seek support is really
Mhm,
important. What is really fascinating about what you say is how do we look after ourselves as mothers?
mhm.
And you also talked about the circularity that we're really so bonded with our children that whatever impacts us impacts them. And
Definitely.
but of course it's a circle and it goes round and round.
Yeah.
And when you talk about you're okay during the day with the kids and then you kind of collapse at night,
Mhm.
what I would say about that is it feels to me like there's a lot of that you're doing a lot during the day for others, but you're not fueling yourself enough. And
Mhm.
I would say that maybe, and this is such a typical thing with mums, because we all do everything for everyone else. And then
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is then we're running on empty at night, like
Totally.
there's nothing. And, it's fascinating because I think the old version of mothering is all caring, all compassionate for everyone else. And these days, like what I've recognized in my work is we've actually got to look after ourselves and be forgiving of ourselves because
Mhm.
I think that's a big part. of looking after ourselves. Of course, we can go for a walk, we can get a babysitter if we can do things for ourselves, but a very big part of that is forgiving ourselves for not being perfect. And and I think this is a really important part of what I do, is lowering that bar, because there is this ideal that mothers need to be perfect, and it's actually quite amazing that we think we can be. It's like, it's hilarious. I mean, how can we be perfect?
Yeah.
But we know that, but we still try.
Yeah.
And that is what I've thought about when you told the story about getting to bed and just being depleted.
Yeah.
And I think it's really valuable to take the bar down for ourselves. And I think that we do so much because we think we have to be a perfect mother. And so we think what that means is, I don't know how old your kids are, but it's like, if they're at school, they've got to do all the activities. They've got to be at every birthday party. They've got to be everywhere. They've got to have the best clothes. We've got to have them at school every day at a certain time. There's like no let up for us. And as a mother, my oldest is 45. My next one's nearly 36, and my next one's nearly 28. And I realized in writing this book how rigid I was with my first two children. My first one, I was almost 24. Didn't have a clue, but I had the blessing of a good sleeper. So, and he was joyful and funny, but I was quite rigid. I had the rules, and that's how I thought I had to be. With my second one, I was also rigid, and there was something else going on, because I'd had secondary infertility for 7 years. So it was like, how can I not love every minute of this? So there was no way for me in those first two experiences there was no space for me to entertain that idea that maybe there are parts of mothering that I don't like, that are difficult. I was like programmed to think it all has to be wonderful. And I think there was a lot of it that I didn't enjoy, and that was boring, that was difficult, but there was no space for me to think about this.
Yeah.
When the third one came along, she was my daughter. I was 41, and she just told me. She would say to me, "Mum, what's wrong with you?" Like, she would just speak it. And when I look back on it now, that changed me, and I had to flow with it, and I had to laugh. I had to laugh at myself, and I had to laugh about what I was doing, and it just was a different experience. So it took me a long time to work that out. And in writing the book, I think I was able to be more comfortable with what I'd done, because we all do things that we don't like. And I write in my book that I've got things that I'm still guilty about that I don't like. Okay, but I'm not going to be ashamed of that for the rest of my life. They come back, those moments, even at my stage when I'm a grandmother, and I feel sad and I feel guilty about it, but I let it go. And it's really important. It's really important to flow with our mothering and not to be rigid. And we're faced in a world often that's rigid.
Very much.
Especially about mothering.
Very much so. And I think some of that comes from, we touched on this a bit before, but like social media. I think there's a lot of posts or things that I see that immediately make me feel guilty. Like, oh, there's so-and-so doing gymnastics. Like, I didn't sign my kids up for gymnastics.
Yes.
But I'm not actually thinking like, well, I signed them up for swimming and soccer and
Yes.
music. Like, so I think when we're constantly comparing, or we're seeing these maybe unrealistic expectations, it becomes really difficult to give ourselves any grace, because we're not thinking about the other people, the negative parts of their life, because we're only seeing a curated space. And so often on my channel, I try to share like the Instagram versus reality thing. Like, this is real life. And if you want to, bring negativity to the fact that my house is a mess, then I will switch the narrative that my house is a
That's
lived in, happy home. And so there are differences to be thought about, I think, in that. And I recently saw somebody post their house where their kids had been playing, and just like, this is a happy home and this makes me feel good, not
yes,
bad,
yes.
and really switched that narrative. And I just loved it because I thought that is true. We see people's like one corner of their house that they're filming in, and we don't see the rest.
That's, thank you for that. I mean, it's the way you said it, you articulated is just so right. And on social media, it is all like you see. I love your vision of the messy house, and they left out 3/4 or 1/7 of the
Yeah.
house. And how I look at it is, you see the mother going to school with her children, the little ducks on a row, and she looks wonderful, and she's all dressed, and then the children look fabulous. But what the reality is, unless she had someone there looking after the children all morning while she went to the hairdressers, what the reality is, it's what we most have. We've had to do breakfast. We'd have to make sure that their bags are packed. You get into the car. We know that one of the kids has left something at home, and that the house is messy. You get them to school. You're bedraggled. That's what reality is,
Totally.
and we can't believe what we see. And you're right. And I love that word, curated, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
And it's just, and why do people have, and we need to think, why do people have to post these things? I mean, we've got to use our antenna to second think that. And when you talk about all the after school, the soccer, the music, the swimming, and I used to do all those things with my first 2 kids.
Yeah.
And then with my daughter, she said, I just don't want to do this. And I was, yes, grateful. No, I
Perfect.
don't want to do it all. And actually, I need a break. And it's like, that's what it is. We have to give ourselves some grace and forgiveness. And I also liked when you use the term comparing, because I think we do too much of that.
Too
And we
much.
need to mother ourselves in our way.
Yeah.
And we need to be surrounded by people that will say, you know what? We don't need to do 4 activities for our child.
Yeah.
1 is actually more than enough, especially when you've got 3.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think something I've learned recently, so I have 3 kids. My twins are
Yes.
4, and then I have a
Right.
2.5-year-old. And I've been having lots of conversations with friends who have kids at similar ages, because it's summertime now. They're out of school. People are saying, what are you doing with your kids? How are you feeling this summer? And I've realized that this stage is actually very magical, because you can do the most mundane, simple task that doesn't cost anything, doesn't need any materials, just stuff you already have around your home.
Right.
And it can be the most magical day for them, the most
Yes.
special thing.
Yes. Yes.
And we have in our minds that we have to do these big, elaborate
Yeah.
things that
Yeah.
take us outside of the home and cost us a ton of money.
Yes.
And a lot of the time, those are not the memories that our kids are
No.
remembering and having
No.
as these positive things. They're playing tag around the house, or
Yes.
building an obstacle course, or doing something
Right.
so silly, having
That's
a
right.
tea
Or
party.
a hose in the
Yes.
garden. It's
Yes. Or
amazing.
helping with household tasks.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
the simple things, really, you can make so beautiful
Yes.
for your
Yes.
kids at this stage. And so I'm trying to really dive into that, and to know that I don't have to plan all these things and stress out about it. I can just really make each individual day special for my kids
Yeah. And for yourself.
and for myself. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you bring such an important message, because we are under pressure from society to do things a certain way. And I think what you're also talking about here is you're thinking about it. Like, you're not going straight forward into something. And you're also talking about play, and how we can play with our children in a way that's actually so simple. And it just needs a bit of thought and a bit of understanding. And also that, really, when summertime comes, your older kids are in some kind of kindergarten, or they probably need to stay home and do nothing. And also, you actually don't need to clean up your house 10 times a day. You
Yeah.
can actually do it twice.
Yeah.
And it's actually okay to watch TV with your kids. There's
Correct.
actually no law against that. It's like we just need to get with the program. Like really understand that these simple things, and as you say, that's what the memories are.
Mhm.
If the kids learn to make some batter for pancakes, how fantastic that is. And pour it into a container, and even they can, even if you help them, they can pour it into the pan. I mean, it's just there's so many things, and that you can do, and outdoor play, and how wonderful that is. And that's how memories are made. And really what you're saying is you don't need to curate it. You just
Totally.
need to think about it.
Yeah.
And how and when you're saying that, it reminds me of how genuine it can be, and how we need to be genuine as mothers, and not we're not machines, and we don't need to entertain our kids in that way. And how wholesome that is.
Yeah. I totally agree. And it's when you actually reflect and think about it, it really is beautiful. When I think about my childhood and the things that I remember, they
Yes.
weren't these big, elaborate things that took hours to plan. They were just
No.
simple little things together that really stick in your mind forever.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I also am starting to think of that as more of like a gift for me. Like that brings me joy as a parent. That makes me happy. What a blessing that I get to
Yes.
create these memories with my kids
That's right.
in the
That's
way
right.
that I want them to
Yes.
remember. And part of that too, because we were talking about filling our cup and doing things for us as the
Yes.
parent too, and that being important. And the reason I started this podcast was to really debunk the myth that self-care is selfish. I wanted people to really understand
Oh,
that
I love
taking
that.
care of yourself
Yes. Yes.
is positive and helps you show up as a better mom, a better partner, a better friend, better at work. Like whatever it is that you're focused on, you can do a better job if your cup is full. And something that I'm really realizing now that the twins are 4.5, they're comprehending, they're watching what we're doing as parents. They see us at work or doing anything. And I've realized that modeling behavior is just as important as creating things and activities for them. Like focusing on myself actually teaches them just as much as me just telling them something.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And I
And
think that's beautiful too.
yes, yeah, that listen, I think that kids, they pick up not what we say, what we do.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I think also what you're talking about is, as a mum, if there's joy in the simple things that we do, then our children do pick that up, and they can be joyous in what they do,
Yeah.
and they can understand what joy is.
Hmm.
And it really is the earthy things.
Totally. It really is. Recently, I've been before bed saying to the kids, each child individually, like, what was your favorite part of today? Or what made you the happiest today? And as they've grown, their comprehension of understanding happiness and memories and things that they're doing is so interesting to me and so beautiful, but also helps me to practice gratitude too, which I think is also like a mood
Yes.
booster and helps you to really understand that amongst the feelings of stress during the day or trying to get lunch on the table or whatever it is, there's also so much good to reflect on and be like
Yes.
knowledgeable about.
And I think what you're also talking about maybe is that we need to, as mums, we're not good at patting ourselves on the back. There's no question about that. And if we have a conversation, as you do with your children, about something that was joyful, that that is really, it boosts you,
Totally.
because then amongst all the difficulties, there's a spark of light. And we really need to remember these these things. And I'm also thinking what it must be like to have 3 children under 4.
At one point it was 3 under 2, and that's when I was at my
Oh,
worst. Yeah. That was crazy.
oh wow. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was wild. It was a very beautiful and difficult time. Like
Yeah, yeah,
it's funny because when you talk about the contradictions, like when I was really thinking about chatting with you today, I was thinking when I first started sharing my life online, it was when I had the twins and I made a post on Instagram. We were in the NICU for a full month with the twins. It was
right,
during the pandemic. They were split
right.
between 2 hospitals for 10 of those days.
Oh
My
no.
husband and I couldn't be together then. Like it was
Oh,
so wild. A
mm,
very traumatic time. Like I don't say that lightly. It was very
mm,
something you could never predict. And I made a post and the title was The Contradictions of Motherhood. And it was
oh,
really all about how you can feel like this is the best moment of my entire life. I've been waiting my whole life to become a mom. It's so beautiful. And at the same time, it is the scariest, most terrifying time
yeah,
of my
yeah,
life and very worrisome. And all those feelings together just felt so odd. Like I had never experienced two polarizing things at the same time. And I think the really interesting thing to me was that it wasn't only moms who commented or reached out to me or said that that post resonated with them. It was people of all different walks of life
mm,
because you can have
mm,
contradictory feelings in
right.
many parts of life. And sometimes it feels weird or uncomfortable or like you don't know what to do about it. And just talking about it and understanding it, I think creates a little less confusion and makes you feel not so out of place.
Yeah, you described that so well. That's
Oh,
amazing. And what you've also said is you're really talking about ambivalence. It's holding those different feelings together and negotiating them. And
mm,
that you didn't deny either. You didn't neglect either. You were able to talk about it. It's the most wonderful, but it must have been incredible struggle, incredible worry, incredible concern. I've been in the NICU. It's not easy.
yeah,
It's scary, and then having them in different places and being pulled. I think
totally.
that's also what you're talking about. And in mothering, one of the part, what I talk about is the push and the pull, and that's really what mothering is. And you described it. You've got two babies. They're in two different places. Your husband's there, but as the mother, you don't know where to be.
Mhm.
And I think that's also really part of what mothering is as well. That when you're in one place, there's also a feeling that aren't I meant to be in the other place as well? It's like for
Totally.
work, it's like for working mums out of the home, because all mums are working mums. If you're at work, you want to be at home. When you're at home, you want to be at work. And it's all of those things. And I often get asked the question, is there more maternal ambivalence? And I think maternal ambivalence is something very positive, but is it more difficult to be a stay-at-home mum, a working mum? I think it's the same. They're
Yeah.
just different feelings. They're different feelings, but it's the same struggle.
Yeah.
When you're working out of the home, then you're missing something at home and you have to manage that.
Mhm.
When you're at home, you're missing being out in the real world. So it's both. And I think that really sums up what mothering is in many ways, that it's both. It's
Totally.
you it's always like you also often feel you're in the wrong place and you just
Yeah.
have to manage that. And that's what it is. It's confusing, it's contradictory, and it's the most wonderful and the most difficult. And that's why I called my book The Loving Moments and Bitter Truths, because it's all of it.
It is
And
all.
I'm trying to get those truths out there and
Mm.
to say that they are loving and they are bitter, and it's
Mhm.
all of them.
Yeah. And
And
that's okay. A lot of
and that's okay.
a
Yeah.
lot of the time I hear people say I think it was a trend online for a while, but like, "Oh, I can't wait for my kids to go to bed. Like it's been a busy day. They've been a lot. I just can't wait for them to go to bed." And then the second they go to bed, you're in your phone scrolling the pictures and
Yes,
videos from
that's exactly that's what,
missing
yeah.
them.
And you miss them. And that's
Yeah.
really, I mean, if we call out mothering like that, it's right. That's what it's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And it's like dispelling that myth that the mother is either a caring, wonderful 24/7 mother, or she's a witch. Because really, we're really honest with ourselves, we're both. Some days we are witches and we cannot stand it and we want to get the hell out of there.
Yep.
And other days we're not. And you know what? the other thing is with mothering, there's actually no escape hatch. You're a
Right.
mother and that's it. And how do we show up every day? And I think this goes back to what you were saying about how do we mother? How do we show up to every day? How do we know whether it's like normal mothering or we've really got an issue? And it's really about being able to show up every day. And that is tough.
Yeah.
But as mothers, we manage to do that. And I think that those lightness or those melting moments keep us going and keeping us showing up every day. And while we're talking, I'm thinking about that question that you asked me. And I suppose if as a mother, we're not feeling those melting moments at all, that's really probably where we need to get some help.
Yeah. I think
Because,
that's so true.
yeah, and I hadn't really thought about it a
Mm.
lot until we talked about it. And that's really why I love these conversations, because every one of these conversations that I have, I learn. And that's really what mothering is. We've got to open ourselves up to learning.
For sure.
And you would know every experience of mothering is different. You've got three littlies, and imagine all the experiences you have every day as a hands-on mum. And then you think about
so different.
Yeah, and you've got twins and a singleton, so everyone is different. And then you talk about, we talked a minute ago about competition. I'm just wondering about what it would be. You've got the twins, and then got the third one, and then what goes on. It must be so overwhelming at times.
Yes.
And that's where you need the support.
Yes.
And that's what one needs to admit to.
Yeah.
That if I'm not managing, we need people around us to help us and not be ashamed of admitting some days it's too much.
Yeah.
And how do
believe that we were not meant to do it by ourselves.
No,
and now people are told like, oh yeah, like it's, you're a stronger, a better mom if you can do it all by yourself. And I just don't buy into that.
That's right. And I guess that's what we're talking about when you talk about the cup, because you need to somehow keep that cup as full as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And I think, it sounds like you've got a partner that can support you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, some mums don't have that.
Totally.
And and how difficult. It's difficult enough when you have a supportive partner.
Yes.
And how do these mums find someone that can help them, that they can talk to and open up to and provide some kind of support?
Yeah.
And this is really difficult. And part of that is actually being able to admit that it is difficult. And some days it really sucks. And some days we just have to not be the greatest mum that we can, but to keep ourselves going.
Agreed.
And being able to show up in whatever capacity, whether it's sitting on the bed at night with our kids and saying, it's been too much, turn on the TV, let's have a bit of chocolate together, or let's watch TV and let's just reconnect in some kind of way.
Yeah.
And not worry about, you're not meant to have chocolate with your children. You're not meant to have them watch TV, just be real with what suits you and what's good for you.
Yeah. And to focus on your needs also.
Yes.
I think that's like a big highlight that took me a long time to really realize, and that I still even sometimes
we still struggle with that. Yeah.
For sure.
And feel guilt about it.
Yeah. But I think it is really important, and it's good to know that like it's okay.
Well, it's essential actually.
Yeah.
But it's not how we're programmed. But it's so important.
I totally agree. Well, this was such a wonderful conversation. I think there are so many great take homes for myself and for the listeners. Yes. And just thank you for bringing light to sometimes negative feelings and knowing that those actually can be a positive thing.
Yes. Yes.
To end, I usually do a few rapid fire questions. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Favorite TV show?
Oh, let me think. You know what? I have a series that I talk about in my book, Little Fires Everywhere. It's
Oh,
with
I
Reese
know that.
Witherspoon. I
Yeah.
loved that, and that was all about mothering.
Yes.
So I think that was and is my favorite TV show.
I loved that show too. Dream travel destination?
Um, Let me think. Maybe, well, at this stage of my life, I'm a grandmother. So my dream travel destination would be a destination, doesn't matter where it is, with my grandchildren.
Oh,
And my
special.
children can come too, but it's with my grandchildren. That's my dream travel, and
Oh,
doing a lot of stuff because
yeah.
I'm not hands-on mothering anymore. So
Yes.
it's that. I think at your stage of mothering, my dream destination would have maybe been at a beach with my children who are looked after by someone else, but and to have time to fill up my cup.
Totally. Yes, a time and place for both.
For
And
absolutely both.
yes, my last question is one phrase that you wish that every mom could hear more often.
Can I say a few?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I want to say that mothering is a messy and interrupted and loving experience.
Mhm.
I think mothering is muddling through and making it up as we go along.
Mm.
And I think that mothers do the best, all mothers do the best that they can. And the fifth one is that mothering is about making mistakes and fixing them up. And that's how we learn. I can't give one, I can't just say one because they're all so important.
Yeah, I love all of those, and I will take those along with me, especially during this week. So
Good.
thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining us. Where can
Thank
people
you.
find you and connect with you?
On my website, Margo at drmargolowy.com. And if anyone wants to direct message me and ask me questions, I'm really happy. Any conversation I can have about mothering, I learn a lot and I love it. And my work is not that I know everything. I've studied maternal ambivalence and mothering, but I'm still learning every day. And I want to disrupt the old like ideals about mothering, and I
Mhm.
want to make new ones, and I want to disrupt the myths so that, and I'm happy to have conversations, and I loved today. It was wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for joining us. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Your Cup of Joy. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as I did. And if this episode resonated with you, or if you've been loving this show, I'd really appreciate it if you could take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you are listening. Your support helps the podcast grow, it helps it reach more people, and it means the absolute world to me. So keep filling your cup with joy, and I will see you next week.